that should not be an issue. I mean, I think it was the way the meeting was set up, because I share here all the time and I've been able to share screens with Merritt. So I do not anticipate there being a share screen issue at HRA.
Okay, and you'll be managing it, and Ryan will be on that call as well?
There's always, for HRA, there's always a technical person.
Great.
Can I interject something here? None of that would have been possible yesterday with all the work Steve did during the day yesterday. So Steve, thank you for not only all the work, but he had a bunch of insights. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Merritt, you're having issues with your camera? Can't hear you at all. Right, never mind. She said.
Yes, I need to unmute. Sorry, sometimes it doesn't focus.
Oh.
I want to make sure you can see all my
That was another weird technical issue. Merritt's screen went all bright lime green, which I had never seen before last night. So I think that was the technical issues were primarily based on the fact that it was a commission meeting and not a HRA meeting, and so I think it was a slightly different platform.
Great.
Did you send out a WebEx, Stephanie, for that?
I will not. It will not be coming out from me. I think I sent you a hold calendar invitation, but the WebEx will be coming from the communications department.
I did not get a WebEx for yesterday's meeting.
So
I ended up dialing in from the agenda that was posted, but I didn't get a WebEx.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. That came from the commissions. So I'll make sure I will email right after this meeting all your email addresses to Scott Denfield, who's in our communications department, to make sure that you're on the list.
yeah, I didn't get one either, Joe.
It would have come from Messenger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
However
I
you
searched
get,
that.
yeah, however you get them from me.
Messenger.
Messenger.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, that's truly unfortunate.
That's okay. I listened to it on, I was able to go to Edina TV.
Okay.
That's why, yes.
Pardon me?
Yeah, that's why you were there. I'm remembering now. You weren't there, and I was wondering what was up.
Yeah, I was on Edina TV.
Well, I think, I think having a joint meeting was a fairly new experience for them, but overall, I mean, it was all accolades. They recognized that you guys put in a lot of hard work, that this clearly was a time-consuming process. I thought they understood, and I thought Dan and Bernadette did an excellent job of talking about how it was a compromise, that there's not 100% agreement on 100% of the report, and that when you get a group of people with different views, there's going to be give and take, that this is reflective of that. And they acknowledge that this is an incredibly challenging topic, and they gave you a lot of accolades that I think are well-deserved. So I think that was a good test, and congratulations to all of you for that, because I think sometimes we get in the weeds a little bit with this process of meeting every week and wake up and our alarm goes off and goes, ugh. But it was, you got some outside perspective, and I think it was good perspective.
Get the report. How long did they have to look at it?
They had 5 days.
So they had some time.
And it included a weekend.
Yeah. So do you think it's unlikely we'll get any written feedback at this point?
Well, as I said, it won't be included in the body of the report. I don't know. I mean, I think Heidi was anticipating that there would have been a memo from the chairs, So I think that that's probably still possible. I'll reach out to them after the meeting this morning, and kind of get a read.
Yeah, maybe give them a deadline on when we would need something back.
I told them, Heidi, we are chatting offline. She's like, when do you need something? I said, Friday. So, I would anticipate, are you thinking the same presentation for the HRA?
Yes, although we
Okay.
might, I think we can continue to work on it and tighten it up a little bit, but yeah, same presentation.
Okay, great. So that saves some work. Do you want me to share screen then, Merritt? I would assume it's the Word version. Oh, wait. Well, yes, let's do that, but we also need to talk about what to do about a conclusion, if anything. So should I share a screen to make sure that you all are comfortable that your comments have been now incorporated?
When is let's stop and talk about this for a second, so we don't run into the situation where someone thought something was going to be there and it's not. When are you handing this over to the typesetters?
Or to my co-consultant who puts it into a different software program.
That's what I meant.
That's the term I use.
Since you haven't given the other software program a name, we've named it typesetting.
Just call it typesetting.
There's an app for that.
Yeah, they're chiseling out the letters now. Let me go ahead, and it'll just take me a minute to open that, and I can let you know.
I believe Friday is what we said, that we were going to send it to Antonio on Friday. Because next week's a short week, and he wanted 2 weeks. Steve?
Oh, he's not. We know this. He's not doing anything for Thanksgiving, so he might as well work.
True.
He actually said he was fine working through Thanksgiving weekend.
Go ahead, Steve.
He's someone, he likes to, when he gets a project, he likes to get it and go boom, 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 and be done. So, even though he could have done more time, he said, I don't want it. I just want to, when I get it, I just work.
Steve?
Sounds like we're starting to transition to talking about the report. I want to make sure we don't miss any follow-ups we need to make as a result of the comments we heard from the HRC and the PC. Just as an example, there's a discussion about how does this relate to the comp plan. I didn't know if that was something we wanted to make sure we addressed in our remarks somewhere, or whether we feel like there won't be an issue for the HRA because they in essence told us what they thought the relationship was. And the other one that I wanted to make sure we touch on is what was the actual goal from the 2008 comp plan? In our text, we indicate that in the last decade, we built 212 units. We kept referring to the 212 as the actual goal, so that would say we actually met our goal.
Right, but the conversation was we had.
So do we have the 2008 document? I think that's only available in paper form. Stephanie, you're...
Yeah, I realize that. It was 212.
Okay, so we should change our text then, because our text indicates that we actually built 212. So our final comment in the text in the recommended next step says, after having only built 212 units in the past 10 years, so we need to change that to what we actually built because it must have been less than 212.
Correct.
And what page is that text on?
That's on page 54, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the recommended next steps as far as the top housing priorities. Actually, I'll have to double check and see which page that's actually from.
Okay.
Yes, no, 212 was the goal for that decade.
Okay, so you have the numbers for what we actually built.
Yes.
So we
What
need
did we
that number,
actually-
I guess.
Do we know what that number is off the top of your head, Stephanie?
I do not.
We have a chart that shows a bar graph of what was built in recent years, but it doesn't have the numbers on it.
Right. I mean, I can get that for you. But I don't have it off the top of my head. Okay.
Do we want to address, one of the questions that came up was the broader housing concern or the broader housing question by the commissioner. Do we want to address that anywhere?
You know,
think-
that. I think you're right. And I was a little surprised by that because this isn't just about affordable housing. And I think we reiterated it throughout the last 18 months that even though a lot of the conversation is about affordable housing, because that's where government tends to play more of a role because of financing, where market rate housing just requires less government involvement, site plan approvals and all that we're involved with, but not the ongoing financing. So your report isn't just about affordable housing. So when they mentioned that last night, I was a little surprised.
And I think one of the things that we can say in response is that our top 5 priorities are explicitly designed to identify affordable housing, and then we identify what the target is for each other type of housing. And as Bernadette said throughout the presentation, and Dan, we're interested in a diversity of housing types. And that's our objectives, or our goal, our top priorities reflect that. But I agree with Joe, that's something we probably should try to hit on.
Well, honestly, I don't think they were particularly prepared. So some of the stuff I mean, I'll take their comments with a grain of salt when people said they read 10 or 20% of the report. They didn't exactly get to the, I don't think we need to beat ourselves up too much for the fact that they didn't actually read the report.
Can we go, as part of this discussion, can we go back to when the final going to be done and it's going to be turned over to be put into its final form? Because that bears on this conversation.
Yes. So in the timeline, it's passing off to Antonio on Friday. This Friday.
Friday the 20th.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we want, jumping ahead here, on a conclusion page, then we have to be done by Friday morning.
Well, let me say this: when it's just one page, that's right. He can cut and paste in a one page. It's just it takes a lot of time to format the text spacing with the visuals, and so we can't keep getting text changes. But if it's just about one section, that can trail a little bit behind.
So
particularly if we say we want to focus on the conclusion being one page or 2 pages.
So I'm just going to toss this out that Joe, and he can pick someone else. You guys write a draft conclusion page, and then circulate it.
I think I was on the conclusion committee. Someone was going to write it, and then I was going to review it. I think the way that we left it at the last meeting.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. Go ahead.
But I don't know if I have time to write it by Friday, but I can certainly edit it and provide a second set of eyes for sure.
Okay.
Janet? Your hand was
Yes.
up too.
Yes. I just wanted to make a couple comments from last night's meeting. The one that I want to mention about is about the affordable housing, when Commissioner Felton talked about how we had a goal of 212 in the last 10 years and we didn't come close to that. But now we have a 3 or 4 times that number as a goal. So that was an interesting thing. So when we talk about affordable housing, it's truly trying to say there has been a lack of political will to make that happen. And it may sound like we are emphasizing it right now, but it's in my opinion, it's in the backdrop of that context that it wasn't achieved when we were given that goal, or we didn't even come close. The second issue that I want to talk about is when Commissioner Stringer talked about, have we compared with any other similar city that has school capacity or tied to housing like here. I don't think Aurora, Colorado is exactly identical to us, but that could be somewhere we could look at. I have not truly looked at it, but we may have some demographic similarities with that city. But I know that it was interesting because, I mean, school-wise, school population capacity, we still have room to absorb that. And this has come up so much in our conversation here, especially with the quality of survey. And I know they still have room in our school buildings to take more students. So in the many multifamily buildings that are going up, they are not built to really take in more than a family with one child. They're mostly 2-bedroom apartments. So the multifamily may not be a source of students into our school building, but I just thought it was interesting to hear her say, have we compared with another city? But we never thought about that. So that's all.
Can we go back to my question about, did we decide at the last meeting that, was there a committee to generate a conclusions page?
No.
No. So do we want to task not one, but 2 or 3 people to do it?
Well, first of all, do we want to have a conclusion? Or should we just stop where we currently stop?
I would put a summary conclusion together, right? I mean, I would think many people would look to the executive summary and a conclusion and maybe not go through the bulk of the report. I think we saw that last night, right? To Bernadette's point, that whether they were unprepared or whether they chose not to go through the whole report or they were pressed for time or whatever it was. It would be nice to have a conclusion.
What do you think the conclusion should focus on? I mean, a conclusion could reiterate numbers. It could sort of be a wrap up that's similar to the executive summary, or it might be sort of a bigger picture. Kind of more descriptions and
could be a number of things. For instance, it could be, it could say that the city is never going to meet this goal unless they come up with a source of funds, for example. We could say that, or things like that.
That's just talking about one goal though, right, Dan?
What's that?
You're specifically referring to the affordable housing goal?
Well, yeah. But I mean, Mary said, what would it say? I said, here's an example. It could say, you could say something like that.
I think that's a fair statement, right?
I just gave that an example, but Steve asked, Steve asked, and it may be the thing we should do, but Steve said, should we do a conclusion can we get a sense from the rest of the task force whether before we find out it's a dead horse we're beating, we want to do a conclusion or not?
My thought on a conclusion, if you were going to go ahead with it, is maybe reiterate some points from last night where, this is all about all aspects of housing, because they seem to miss that, or some of them missed that last night. Maybe talk about revisiting parking requirements, or have a flexible set of requirements. We could talk about the capacity of the schools. With the open enrollment policy, you don't have to take in new students if you don't have capacity for them through open enrollment. So, and you have nearly 800 that are outside of the city of Edina. So you could reiterate some of that, some of last night's conversation, just address it in a different way. And just say, again, these are our 5 priority, and maybe a quick summary of the 4 goals.
How about also talking about reiterating or reaffirming additional community engagement, right? Not just the quality of life survey, maybe taking pieces of this and digging deeper into it.
Janet, Norm, either of you have any thoughts on doing a conclusion?
I think there's a few things that do need to be said. I'm thinking about the context of comments that were made last night. One of the high-level comments was, I think it might have been made more than once, was what is the relationship of this report to the comp plan? And we probably need some sort of an affirmative statement that this builds on the comp plan, so that there's no question as to whether this is in opposition or support of the comp plan. I think one of the things we've talked about, I'm not sure we explicitly stated it in the body of the report, is that we accepted the over the high-level targets that were in the comp plan, and we're not necessarily changing those, but we're providing a little more detail to just support the overall findings of the comp plan.
Janet, any thoughts?
Yeah, I will be in support of a conclusion, just as a summation of all the overall report talk about our goals, and that those who don't have the time to go into the details can read the executive and go to the summary and be able to pull together what we are talking about in the report.
So let's Joe, would you do it, and would someone else join him?
I'll be happy to join him.
I can work with them as well, or not.
Okay, that's our last subcommittee.
So who's going to write it? Time to write it.
So Steve will write, Joe will provide input, and Bernadette would edit.
Sounds great.
Thank you. So back to the things that were missed or inadvertently dropped out. We need to go through those, and then so we don't have to cross this bridge again. Will we get one final look at the product, the rough draft, before it goes into production?
Could it go into production on Monday instead of Friday, giving us the weekend if we choose to take it?
Again, you can, the conclusion can follow. So you can take time.
He meant the whole report, Merritt.
Pardon?
He meant the whole report, not just the conclusion. Question is still to you.
Yeah, no, he needs to get rolling. What do you I mean, so that gives you 2 days. What did you have in mind to address in the body of the report?
No, I'm saying, if he's gonna work on it this weekend,
Yeah,
then maybe that's a different point. But I personally just don't have a ton of time during the work week where I have more time on the weekend to deal with things like this. So if he's going to work on it on the weekend, then it's just a push of whose time and when. But if he wasn't going to work on it this weekend and we had the opportunity to spend time on it, it would just be helpful for me personally.
Well, Joe, we can have until Monday for the conclusion.
Yeah.
But I think today we'll go through the report because it's been gone through to make sure that the edits that have come in since, this was sent out at our last meeting are all captured.
Well, how about this? Let's go through it like you said, and if in the next 24 hours any of us come up with something, just send up an email saying this was missed. We just run out of time. We got to keep pushing ahead.
Yeah, and I think we should focus our energy on things that we think are factual mistakes or typos. I found a major typo yesterday and let Merritt know about that, and she took care of it. Merritt, just going back to our earlier conversation, that number 212 appears on page 5 in the final report.
Okay. Should I share screen? The report?
Yeah.
See, I have no problem sharing screen with you all. I think last night was just some weird glitch. Okay, so page 5. Here's page 5. Oh, recognize that to achieve the affordable housing goal of 992 units next year after built only. Oh, okay. That is incorrect. So this would need to.
Did we build less than 212?
Yes.
We built X of the 212 goal.
Yep. So what I have here, as you guys were talking earlier, here's the table I shared with you guys earlier. So between 2010 and 2020, 98 were built. Between 2000, and I just wanted to say between 215 and 220 of those 98, 39 were built. So I say use this number.
So use 98.
98 were built. 98 of the 212.
Yep.
And most of that was in the last year through because the inclusionary housing policy.
It is. It may not be an important point, but I'll ask anyway. Was the methodology to come up with a 212 the same as the methodology used this time, or do we have no idea?
It's the same general methodology. What I don't know is if it's the exact same variables that went into the sausage maker. But it's the same concept of looking at it from a regional area, coming up with a number based on, overall number based on need, and then the having a need number and then splitting that down based on, it's a portion of the overall need based on funding availability. So that same process was used.
Yeah, and you should keep in mind that when the original 2008 plan was being put together, Minneapolis was the city that was seeing very little, if any, growth. And since that time, Minneapolis has seen a surprising amount of growth. And so you see lots of new development along the river, and it's so the whole world has changed from a metropolitan perspective.
Okay, so let's go up to, all right, that may be the
I
beginning.
have a comment on that same page.
Okay,
When you go to the actual numbers for the goal, just how we define occupancy would seem to me it would apply to both the affordable units and to the market rate. And the way it's set up, it seems to imply something different. So perhaps we want to just give a definition of general occupancy and that it applies to both. Do you see what I mean? In one case, we only talk about people with disabilities, and then in another case, we talk about all sorts of situations. Well, we'd have all sorts of situations under the 992 general occupancy. So maybe there's a different way to set that up, or maybe at the bottom of that box, say general occupancy is defined as, and then put all those subgroups into that.
Well, we identify singles, couples, single parent families, some families, empty nesters, and downsizers. Do you want to add people with disabilities to that list?
Well, what I was thinking is general occupancy shows up twice. So let's just have one definition of general occupancy at the bottom or something. You see what I mean? Because the people under market rate would also, those kind of households would also show up under general occupancy for affordable housing. See what I mean? I mean, some of them are going to be in the market rate and some will be in the...
Another way to handle what you're talking about would be to take the phrase general occupancy out of the heading and put it down into the description below, just as we did above. So it will be 900 market rate rental housing units. And then say general occupancy homes for.
yeah.
Yeah,
That might make more sense, sure.
Yeah, it shows up under both affordable and market rate, which is appropriate. It's just, it should be defined the same way for both.
So did you find that? Did you follow that, Merritt?
yeah, and I mean, in a way, it might just be easiest to dump the term because its purpose is to differentiate from supportive and assisted housing.
Well, I like the term because it just reminds people of who we're talking about.
Okay.
I would just put it under the category add 200 senior and then just put definition of general occupancy includes these households.
Yep, that's a good idea. Thank you.
So that's the other thing, Merritt, is remember page 25. Let's get the picture and the caption correct.
Yeah, that was a comment you previously sent me, right?
Right. It just hasn't been. I just know sometimes, yeah, we've talked about it. It's just, it gets down the line and somebody forgets and then boom.
Yeah.
Tom, hold on to that because I don't want to flip back and forth because it takes too long.
Okay.
So let's hold on to that. And when we get to page 25, pick it up again.
Okay.
So on page, Norm?
Yeah, just for a little bit of history background, the 2006 Housing Succession Plan recommended a total of 500 affordable housing units by 2020. And if I understood correctly, there was quite a bit of discussion among the council that went on for a long time, and the 212 was more of a compromise to bring that down to 212. So, Stephanie?
How I understand it is the 212 came from the Met Council. The Housing Succession Plan Task Force said that it wasn't enough, that the need was much greater, and that they should exceed what the Met Council allocation was. And that was controversial, and the City Council went back to the Met Council number. That's how I understand it.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 4, there was a change to define what the Maxfield study was, because we just kept throwing out Maxfield study as if everyone in the world knew, and so it's defined. Oops. And then just some typos. We just discussed the table on page 5 and the 212. Sorry, I know this is for people that aren't holding the scroller. This is just flying pages. But I want to make sure that you guys get, so the Maxfield study, we've corrected it to be the 220 rather than the 219, because that's when it was presented. The work took place in 219, but the report was written in 220.
Stephanie, I think it's, normally I wouldn't be that worried about it, but because of COVID and all that, I would still say April 2020 because they really weren't able to take anything in about the COVID. And so just to let them know that it was really early 2020 and we didn't know what we were in for at that point.
Okay.
While she's doing that, I also just want to mention this, the formatting is thrown in this one a little bit because I've been working in Word now to get the formatting down, and then when it gets put in this format, in Google Docs, it throws off the formatting a bit. So I will be working, she's taking notes in this one, but I'll be working off the clean version.
Okay, so there's some typos in that page, and I want to make sure that, yeah. So like what Merritt was saying, the map will not be off the page. In the final version, we will have the full map rather than just the western border.
Good to know.
Typos. You guys,
the 2020, which Norman pointed out, we referred to it. I referred to it as 2019 because that's when the study was done, but it is correct that it was, you know, published in 2020. So I just all those.
Page. You guys didn't have many comments in here unless you know some. I have all the emails of your comments too if we need to go through those.
Page 25.
Oh, page 25. I just zipped by it.
Tom was concerned about the attribution or something about the photo.
Well,
Oh,
it's
yeah, but
the,
it's not
the wrong
Yorkshire.
picture for the caption, or the caption's the wrong for the picture. That picture is the Avador senior housing, and the caption is for the Yorkshire complex. So
I have updated that in the Word version.
oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No,
So this
thank
has
you.
been updated. Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, and for want to thank Tom for taking so many of the pictures that are in this report. It's extremely helpful.
Yes, Steve.
Oh, sorry. I was just giving Tom a thumbs up.
Oh, okay. All right. Norm had written in that this should be bulleted and not part of the paragraph.
Yep, I
So
got
that
it.
has done.
Yep.
And then this was a new bullet.
Take out the quotes though. Well, never mind, because I'll see that. Go ahead.
Will you see it in the midst of everything else?
Go ahead, remove them. I'll put a note to myself too. What page is that?
Take out quotate quotes.
Okay.
It is
I got a note to
page
myself.
30.
And Merritt, I sent you an email this morning that on that bullet, the preceding bullet information is repeated twice.
Okay. Thank you. And Steve had sent me a couple of like typo cleanup things too yesterday that I'll be tending to. They weren't substantive of content. Just for the rest of you.
Okay. Right, so this bullet was in twice, you said? Norm?
Yeah, if you see in 2018, and then the bullet before that repeats the same item.
Right, okay.
Right, so what I was supposed to do was put the bullet in, yeah, to break out that part of the text. You know what you do, Stephanie, is you go to the 2016 and you just add a bullet before in 2018.
And remove the phrase in 2018 from the previous bullet.
All right. Oh, I see. Make this a new bullet?
Yeah, I did make the fix, but I'll need to remove the duplicate.
Okay.
Yep.
I need it. Okay. There we go. How's that? Okay. Oh, and to let you know, I changed some that we have a community development director, that's Carrie, and he's the head of the planning department. So, and then the economic development manager and the affordable housing manager are within the planning department underneath Carrie. So I had there's just some of that I just cleaned up a little bit. All right, scrolling to see if there's others. We need to make sure that Dan's comment is in here, and I don't know where that would be.
843.
Okay. This looks pretty clean. So not a lot of comments in this area. Just typos here.
We need to make sure that these two pie charts get updated. These are still the old version.
Okay, so these numbers might be off a little bit. So let me look at the draft I'm looking at. My comment is in the second paragraph under 4 land use regulation. So wherever that is.
Okay. All right. So let me make sure. Why didn't this stick? Comment.
See after these pie chart pages.
All right. So, update pie charts.
So Meredith and Antonio have the new pie charts.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then, so we're not, wait, Dan, where was yours? Not in this section. Land use regulations. Okay.
In green.
These rules might be at the state regional. Okay, here it is. It's in there now. Okay. Want to make sure of that. And then an added sentence about, to tie this up, about what the city's role can be with land use regulations. Are there any other big ones that you all remember? I can pull out the emails, but. And then we're back down to the rules. Why is that there? Okay.
I just want to let you know I'm letting the cat be in the video because it's a foster cat and he's up for adoption. So he's advertising for himself.
One question I had about this, because when I was looking at it yesterday, when I got Ian's email, was I know that some of the people we have in here in the appendix who came to the meeting, and you talk in the body, or do you talk in the body that you met with developers? I know some wanted to be anonymous, so we can't include them all in the appendix, but is there some place where it talks about all the people that had consulted on, you know, like St. Louis staff, Bloomington staff, and the developers that were willing to be named?
Yeah, I didn't name the city, so I didn't name the cities specifically. So I said like, nearby cities, developers of market rate and affordable housing. So I used generic titles.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in the report, it says that the task force interviewed this many people, I forget what the number was, which included school
All right.
board, developers,
Because we have this part in Appendix 5, but we're not including the interviews in an appendix.
Right, and I think, Norm, this is maybe a question for you. I could put, I could repeat that paragraph there, or I could put a number for everybody we interviewed, and then just a general description like affordable housing developer, market rate developer, so that people can see precisely what the breakdown was.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Just repeat same way you worded it earlier in the body of the.
Oh, just general?
Yeah.
That's satisfactory. I don't think there's a need to get into further detail.
Okay.
Norm, my sense was when we talked to the developers, they didn't mind being listed. They didn't mind participating, but when they shared views that they felt were personal or could be seen as controversial, they didn't want those shared as attached to them, right? They were sharing personal views to the subcommittee, but I don't think any of them said, don't use my name in the report. I don't recall that at all.
I might have been overcautious in doing that.
Well, should I use the names and where they're from then? That certainly gives more acknowledgement, but.
Yeah, it seems like if it were.
I think Norm's caution is a good one. I think using the general terminology we used earlier is sufficient. I'd hate to have any of those guys get a phone call from, Ian or somebody else saying, well, I understand you made some comments. I want to know what they are. And have the guy feel like he's been put on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if it, I hear you. Previous set information, I didn't know if it'd add some credibility or if we added names of the, Brian and DHR and all that in a similar table as this one. But
yeah, I think the flip side of that argument, Stephanie, is that people could look at it and say, gee, you only talked to 7 people and you made all these massive conclusions. You got to be kidding me. So I think we ought to be as general as we have stated in the body of the report.
okay, that sounds good. And then the bibliography. Now, is anyone concerned that something that they wanted in here was not maliciously, but just due to volume excluded? Okay.
Yeah, and feel free to dig into that one more in the next couple of days and just let us know.
Okay. Then I'm going to stop sharing. Is there anything else that I think the next task is writing the conclusion, getting that to Merritt. Merritt will look at these comments, make sure that they're all incorporated again, do a double check and send it off to Antonio.
And again, when will we see the revised pie charts?
Today or tomorrow.
So we're going to see another version of this for us to review.
Yeah, it'll be very similar to what we just looked at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to do it and track changes and be able to see what changed, and send that to you or send you a link to it. Since it's such a large document. And One question I have, this is back on the priorities for new housing in Edina, the box that we have. We talked previously about how people who were perusing the report quickly yesterday didn't seem to completely catch on to the fact that there were recommendations about general housing and not just affordable. And I'm wondering if that executive summary, I should take an extra page to have each of the 5 listed with a picture next to them of the type of housing it's discussing, just as more of a visual reinforcement of the topics.
That might be a good idea. The other thing I was thinking is maybe put the market rate at the top and the affordable next. Sometimes people look at the first line and that's it.
It's rated numerically.
What'd you say, Steve?
It's listed in numerical order, so it's 992, then 900, then whatever the next number is. So it's just listed from. They're so close, we could flip them around, but I think
it'll help to take out general occupancy, because then it'll be the same.
Yep.
Affordable housing units, market rate, rental. I can ask Antonio
the 5 different priorities.
Yeah, I'll have Antonio experiment with that, see if he can come up with something that looks good.
And you're going to do that in the executive summary or somewhere else?
It would be like the last page of the executive summary. So what I'd probably do is take the page that has the box, and have that dedicated to the numbers and some pictures, and then the final page would say the task force recommends the following next steps for the city council. So just be pictures to pop up. Why don't Antonio and I can experiment with it and see if we can make it look good.
Or anything else? I have a question for Bernadette. I was invited to and this is related, a forum, the annual Affordable Housing Summit, and you are on the panel, and it's on the morning of December 10th. So and that's the morning of the HRA meeting, and I know you're an amazing woman, Bernadette. I don't know if you can be 2 places at once. So does someone on later at the conference?
That's a good. I was sort of waiting to see what the agenda looked like, because the panel is from 9. The summit or whatever is from 9 to noon, and then I think the HRA. So I was going to see where we were on the HRA agenda, and then where I was on the panel, and then figure it out from there.
Okay. Because I wanted to go to that conference, but of the HRA, because the panel's in person, right? So even if you participate, you could participate in the HRA from the hotel.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I might actually have my hair done and my camera on. So, unlike
you always look lovely. Okay. All right. So let us know, because if I thought the conference started at 8, so I thought there was more of an overlap. So yeah, let us know when your panel is, and
I'll call the Real Estate Journal and ask them.
Okay. All right. So if you need someone to be your proxy, I guess just communicate and see if someone wants to present with Dan. But we'll assume that you'll be able to do both until we hear otherwise. Is there anything else?
Yeah, Tom, since you are our photo expert, do you want to take a crack at sending photos that you think would be appropriate to merit sort of 5 different priorities? And I'm thinking that we may want to have multiple photos for some of those categories, like the general market rate, general occupancy covers such a range of populations that if we try to capture all of that in one picture, we could either use Nolan Mains or something else, and it feels like it may be somewhat prejudicial depending on what image we decide to choose. So I didn't know if you wanted to give some thought to what photos you think best represent each of those 5 priorities.
Well, I've given Merritt a lot more pictures than what you see in the report, and let her and Stephanie kind of use their discretion. But if you've got a project or 2 that you think would be a good representation, I'm more than happy to go out and take a picture of it. I just took pictures of, they said, I want a senior building. I went out and got a senior building because I know where some of those are. But, and I took a lot of single family housing projects or houses, and then some townhouses. I think there's 1 or 2 she hasn't used yet. So, yeah, no, that'd be fine. So if you guys want to just send me the name or an address of someplace, I'll run out and take a picture.
I wasn't expecting you to go out and do more photos. I was thinking that out of your library, we should be able to get photos, but we should just be careful. If you show a townhome and we use the ones that are on 49th, and they're pretty extravagant looking townhomes versus the ones that are over on Vernon. So we just need to be careful on what images we choose.
Well, Merritt's been very careful, and Norm has made sure that we don't put any castles in.
Do we think, so thinking about the comments yesterday, one of the comments, or a couple, that they hadn't had a chance to get through this report yet. Do we want to add length to the report? Do you feel like this table and these pictures are important? Are we getting enough clarification that it's worth adding to the report?
Yeah, it should be a visual. It's supposed to be a visual read to make the reader's job easier, as opposed to harder. I agree with you. We shouldn't be trying to add to the report. The report's length. But why don't you take a crack at it, and we'll take a look at it and see if it works.
Anything else? I feel like this is our last meeting that we should go out for breakfast, but we might have to wait a year.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yes?
We have our presentation to the HRA on the 10th.
Correct.
And that's going to be to the same people that we are apparently presenting to again on the 15th. Are we really making the same presentation twice to the same audience?
I need to confirm that. I think I mentioned last Friday that the agenda, one of the reasons we're presenting at the HRA is because it's a morning meeting and it's the same body. Sometimes the presentations happen at both meetings because the audience is different at HRA meetings than at city council meetings. However, this city council meeting is already anticipated to go until like 1 a.m. So they may just want the report on the consent agenda rather than a full presentation to make sure the meeting doesn't go to 2 a.m. If it's going to be discussed by the same political body on the previous Thursday. So I need to get some clarity on that, and I'll let you know.
Okay,
I think if the agenda were light or a typical agenda, they would My guess is that they would want a full presentation at both, but because of the anticipated length, I don't know.
Okay.
The conclusion page, it seems you'd give us a time, you'll circulate, you don't have to circulate the first draft, but at some point, circulate a draft to all of us.
Yeah, I'll do that. Should be mid-afternoon tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, we do not have a meeting on November
How
10th.
do you want to work together on that?
All right, Joe was asking Steve a question and Norm asked me a question. So Joe, why don't you
That's
ask?
the first question, other than he was wondering when he was going to find time to work on it. My assumption, Joe, is that I will put it together and send it to you. I'll send it to you tomorrow afternoon. Whenever you're done with it, you can send it on to the rest of the group.
Got it.
Norm, you had a question for me?
Yes, we do not have a meeting on November 24th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Because everything will be in production mode and there won't be anything to discuss. So the day before Thanksgiving, you have off from meeting with me to bake your pies. So I think our next meeting is at HRA.
Yep.
But on the 24th, if you feel up to it, you can wish me a birthday wish.
Happy birthday.
Where are you going to be?
It'll be 29 again.
Yes, and I'm holding.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I see you. I mean, we can email clearly. And then I will see you on the 10th.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I'll make sure that you're all on the invitation list. I will double check that. Oh, Merritt? One last thing. You're on mute.
Is there any wrap up or goodbye event for this group, or is this like the last time they're in this setting?
We'll figure something out.
Okay.
I know, it seems so unceremonial.
It seems like a very momentous thing for this group to wrap up. So
You are correct. It is. It's been a great process. Thank you.
yeah.
I've enjoyed meeting all of you and getting to know you guys. So
The feeling's mutual, Tom.
Yeah.
I was really proud of the work that had occurred last night. I know it's been really frustrating, and there's been times when we probably have all hung up wanting to pull our hair out, wondering what has happened. But last night, you know, even hearing their accolades, I thought they were well deserved for you. And I felt, I think it's come together.
Stephanie might, I don't know if Stephanie will think of this, but I'll throw out that I'm the type of person where after I've been through any type of big effort, I think it's really valuable to kind of do a debrief to figure out what worked, what didn't work, how can that inform future processes. And so I don't know if, so what I would imagine, say for this group, is that each of you take a little time to write down kind of your observations about what worked, what didn't work, what you might recommend in the future. And particularly, it seems like as task force members, you know, what were your expectations coming in? What do you wish, you know, when you were given your charge? I know there's been a lot of frustration that it was sort of ambiguous, what could have been done differently. And those can be put together anonymously, just sort of collected as a group of comments, and someone collates them, and that someone probably, I mean, it's not me. It maybe shouldn't even be Stephanie. It maybe should just be, you know, someone that hasn't really been attached to the process at the city. But I think that that could be really valuable to city staff and the council in particular.
I will echo that because I think you guys were given a very vague charge, but that may be my perspective, just because of my work, how I operate. So I think feedback for how staff can be better, assist you better, as well as how, or not better, just it doesn't have to be a value thing, but and the charge and everything else, I think that would be full feedback.
I'll work on that. I'll send out an email and gather some comments for those who want to contribute.
I also have little prizes for you all that I would have presented at a meeting, but they're in my office at work. And so somehow I have to figure out how to get those to you. Don't expect a huge plaque or a trophy. It's not that. It's a little prize.
So speaking of trophies, who was the commissioner last night in the corner of his office? It was littered with trophies. Did you guys see that? Must have been 20 or 30 trophies in the corner. They were big.
Wow. I remember glancing at that and having it register at some level, but I can't recall who that was. I'll have to look at I'll have to Facebook or YouTube it.
You know, you can buy fake trophies and that, just stack them up. And
How that's so improper to bring that up.
Because Dan has some accolades on his wall.
I know. They say like
they're all fake.
Trophies.com.
We're eating the biggest burger at Tony John's Pizzeria or something.
I've seen them for sale at garage sales. You can get them cheap.
That's where I get them. Okay, any final comments before we close the meeting?
Thank you all.
Yeah.
You are a super dedicated, bright group of volunteers. I've been really impressed.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving, but we'll have some emails over the weekend on the conclusion page, and then we'll see you all again on the 10th.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.